Have you ever had a moment that kind of slapped you upside the face? Just a moment of realization. It's what we call a self-aware moment. The moment where you realize something either you've been missing or just kind of ignoring. For me, it was a man bra picture. It was an anniversary picture, I think maybe our 5th anniversary. No. Yeah, I think our 5th anniversary.
Okay.
And we went to a hibachi restaurant and they took a little Polaroid of us. It was great. And I saw the picture and I was a giant tub of goo. I was probably in the 285 range at that time. And the way I was sitting, I had my arm around your mom and I needed a bra. I needed a man bra really bad.
That hurts.
And it was just one of those moments in my mind. I thought, I've got to do something about my weight. Because we're really good as men to, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
Push it to the side.
I've gone up, maybe 7 inches in my waist size over the last few years, but I can lose it anytime I want. And so that was my moment of becoming very self-aware of what I look like, self-aware of what was going on. And today we want to talk to you about what that means to be self-aware, because we're talking about being the main character of your own life. And the way you do that is you start becoming more self-aware, and we're going to show you about it on the show.
This is the Thriving Man Podcast with David and Reese Maxwell. These weekly shows are designed to help you remove the confusion from your life and make real progress with your growth. No matter where you are or where you're going, we're here to help you live a life you can be proud of. So welcome to the Thriving Man Podcast.
So here's an interesting thing about becoming the main character of your own life. It starts with being self-aware.
Yeah, it does.
I think a lot of people think, if I'm going to live that main character kind of life, I got to be perfect. I got to have it all together. I got to be the strongest, smartest, and most attractive person in the room. That's main character energy. It doesn't have to be that way.
No.
It's not necessary because we've all been given different skills, different gifts, and we just have to be comfortable with who we are.
Well, and you look in our favorite movies and books and things like that, the main characters, even the heroes, they're not perfect. They're flawed.
No.
And I think there's something that, he's not perfect and he's flawed. And they grow.
Right.
And that's the favorite part of the story. And I think that's so we think, I can grow too.
Yeah. We wrote down this quote earlier, and I think it's good. It's, if you don't know who you are, you can't become comfortable with who you are.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Now, don't mistake us here. Becoming comfortable with who you are doesn't mean like you don't grow. You just brought that up.
Yep.
A main character has a process of growth. They need to be getting better as time goes along. If they don't, that's its own problem. But what we're saying is a self-awareness that's not necessarily apathy. It's being, just really being in touch with who you actually are.
Yeah, and being a person who is authentic, mainly to yourself first, and not someone that we kind of coined the phrase a social shapeshifter, someone who, and we all know that guy. He gets around this group of people, he acts one way. He gets around this group, he acts another way. Like sometimes I've seen guys who are very outgoing, very life of the party, but then they get around their girlfriend and they like shut down.
Yeah, they turn into like...
Yeah. And it's because they don't know who they are. So they change personas depending on what they do. And a lot of men do that their whole life.
Yeah. I just realized the people that are listening to the show did not see the face I just made. I made like a very boring people face.
Yeah, the boring people face.
People were like, he didn't even finish a sentence. Why did David say yes? Another one is the guys that like try to be cool.
Yeah.
The people that are over the top,
Yeah.
like that one uncle or that one guy from high school that's still acting like he's in high school. And really, he's more filling a role than he is actually being himself. He never asked himself kind of the harder questions that lead to self-awareness. So he's like, I'm still the quarterback on varsity, even though I'm 38.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of cringy. It's just kind of gross.
We have a lot of people in our society who they've made age a negative thing. Where getting older is bad. And so you see these, I still have the body of a 20-year-old and I'm in my 40s. Nobody cares. I mean, are you that insecure that you have to try to find those ways. People will Botox themselves to where they look completely different or do plastic surgery. And all that really a lot of times comes out of their own insecurity where I can't accept who I am. So I have to try to, instead of growing and learning about yourself and getting better, I want to do an outside quick fix to make me what I think I should be.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. And I think probably everyone listening or watching this would agree. You never get to a point where everything's perfect.
Yeah, it's true.
You're never going to get to that point. I remember when I was at like 8th or 9th grade, I was like, man, once I graduate, I'm going to have it figured out, And then I graduated, I'm like, man, once I finish college, I'll probably have at least some kind of an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I get into adulthood, I'm like, man, once I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'll know. And here we are coming up on Emily and I's 5th anniversary. And now we're like, man, I'm going to get my crap together eventually, probably.
Yeah.
Life has this tendency it keeps going. You never arrive to this point of perfection. So a lot of times self-awareness is part of the journey of learning to be okay with that. No, I don't have all the answers, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That is a self-aware person. And to use your verbiage, a secure person.
Yeah, and what we want to do is understand being self-aware, again, isn't quitting and saying, I can't change. Yeah. A lot of guys get in that where this is who I am, you just have to accept me for who I am. Well, that's not good either because we want to grow. And I think there's something in us as men that we need to grow. When we just give up, we just kind of check out of life. We've all known guys who've done that. They just quit. They quit trying. They quit trying to grow. That's very different from someone who says, this is my personality. This is what I'm good at. And they kind of hone in on those things and they drop the things that they know, hey, that's just not my thing. So why try to get a little bit better when this area I'm really into and I could be great in this area?
Yeah.
That's a self-aware person. They know I'm not good at that. I'm not even going to try. Like guys in business, I stink at this. I'm going to hire people to do this for me.
Right.
So I can focus on what I need to do. We call those guys billionaires. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like what you said just a second ago when you're mentioning this point of like, you're not expecting yourself to be someone different than who you are, but you're also not letting yourself be any less than who you are.
Yeah.
I think a great example of this is Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Uncle Iroh, the best.
Yeah, he's one of the coolest people.
Yeah.
But he's this old guy who has lived a bunch of life. He went through a lot of tragic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, betrayal by his own family, losing his own son. You would think that he had every right to be a cynical old man.
Yeah.
But he's chill.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, he's the guy you're going to want to hang out with.
Yeah.
He'll sit and have a glass of tea with you or fight with you in order to save your life. He's very much has this dynamic range of who he is as a person. But I think the thing that sticks out to everyone the most, and this is the reason he's like most people's favorite character, he's comfortable with himself.
He is.
He's like, he's not trying to act like he's in his 20s. He's an old man.
Yep.
But also when he's got to kick butt, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
He loves jasmine tea and he is unapologetic about loving that.
Yeah.
And yet he's not over the top with it and trying to get attention, being like, hey guys, I'm the guy that loves this. He's not trying to be the life of the party. He's very comfortable in his own skin. And I think for anyone who's watched the show, that's going to resonate with you.
Yeah.
Because we all want to be that.
Yeah.
And he hadn't arrived at this point. Like in the show, he's in exile.
Yeah, he is.
He's been kicked out of his own nation. He's on the run for his own life, but he's just vibing. He's having a great time. Like he's running. He's like, hey, that's a hot spring. Let's chill for a minute.
I know.
And
let's go sit in the hot springs.
Yeah, he's just having a good time. And I think we all want to have that.
Yeah.
But it starts with self-awareness.
It does. And I think for us, having self-awareness is an understanding of yourself, which means you got to do that inner work. And we talk about success is from inside out. And for men, it's understanding this is who I am, and then taking that and then applying it to those different areas of your life. And you become that guy that other people can count on because they're like, he knows who he is. And that's important.
It is. To go back to your CEO illustration that you mentioned a little bit earlier, a lot of CEOs are very confident.
Yeah.
but they know that they don't know everything.
Exactly.
And that's one of the first principles we want you guys to understand. To be a main character, you do have to have a sense of confidence.
You do.
But you don't have to know everything to be confident. You don't have to have this unlimited omniscience, this limitless supply of knowledge.
Yeah.
In fact, if you did, you'd be obnoxious.
Yeah.
Because those people who try to act like they know everything, oh my gosh, know-it-alls. In fact, in the blog post version of this, we're going to be sharing a link to, there's this guy that makes a thing about Reddit users. Yep. It's like when a Reddit user walks in to order coffee and like the whole time he's just trying to correct the barista about what a good cup of coffee is. And you know, he's just so obnoxious, but he's trying to give this air that he knows it all.
Yeah, well, we see that in everything. You know, you look at YouTube comments, blog comments, everything. People feel like the world needs my opinion. You know, they could be sitting in a basement eating Cheetos in their underwear and act like they're
going to
the
be
smartest.
Tearing up Ariana Grande on singing techniques.
Yeah. She's not a good singer. You know, and you're just like, really? Is that really what your life is about?
Right.
When you look at the people who are the successful CEOs, they don't try to be the accountants. They don't try to be the ones who make things. They have people who do that. They try to spend their time creating culture, you know, keeping the main vision, the main thing. They're really good at finding those people. And the ones who aren't don't become CEOs. They just don't. Because when a company hires a CEO, they don't need them to do the books.
Yeah.
They don't need them to build things.
Or be the marketer.
Yeah. They need them to run the company. And that takes someone with a specific vision who knows their strengths, knows their weaknesses. And I think for us as men, we have to get to that point where, hey, I'm okay with being good at this. I am good at this. I'm not so great at that. I'm going to let maybe my wife do that or one of my buddies do that, you know, or I'm going to pay for someone to do that. And I think that's a smart way to handle it because then you're not trying to be everything to everybody.
Yeah. And for you guys as listeners and viewers, we want you to be able to experience a sense of freedom knowing that.
Yeah.
That's not saying you give up and you never grow.
Yeah.
You know, we've said that multiple times. However, I think there is an unrealistic expectation we have in our culture that I have to be the one to take care of everything. Oh, a self-sufficient man does everything. They know everything. And that's just not true. I mean, I'm not like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, in our business, social media, neither of us care about it that much.
No.
We are never going to be social media moguls.
Yeah.
Unless we pay somebody
It's true.
to take our stuff and make it good.
That's our goal.
Because we just, that is a dream.
It is.
But even in our personal life, like for me, budgeting, I'm not a big detail person. I want to be contemplating deep ideas that can help people and creating new things.
Yeah.
Looking at how little money I have stresses me out.
You'd rather not do it.
I don't want to look at it because there's like this feeling of angst every time I look. And you may not be that way. Maybe you love getting the details because it gives you a sense of control and empowerment. Congrats. That's not me.
Yeah.
Or even with interests. I love Lord of the Rings. Love that series. I can give you most nerdy facts about Lord of the Rings. But if you were to ask me about handyman stuff around the house, I've got the same handyman knowledge as like a fourth grader, you know, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to pay somebody if something major falls apart.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's what we're talking about. And I'm still learning this myself, getting comfortable with the awareness of who you are.
Well, it's like if you have a guy come into your house to fix your Wi-Fi system, you don't need him to build a closet for you.
No.
You don't expect him to fix your cabinets. You want him to fix your Wi-Fi. And I think that's what we have to understand. We want people who are experts, but a lot of times we feel like I have to know everything.
I have to be the expert in
I have
everything.
to be the expert.
That's a lot of pressure.
And I get that, but you also have to understand that we're all individuals. We all have likes and dislikes that are different. Some people are good at things. Some people are bad at things. That's normal. That's normal. Just be great at what you're good at. Don't try to be good at something you're just not into because I don't think you'll ever be satisfied with that.
Yeah. And I think we just covered, you don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to know Wi-Fi and how to do proper painting techniques and, all the different stuff. But what you just brought up is the other element. You don't have to excel at everything to be confident.
Yeah.
I think that's an unrealistic expectation we put on ourselves as well. I have to be good at everything.
Yeah.
I have to be very competent or better than everybody around me in every area. The truth is we all have strengths.
Yeah, we do.
We all have weaknesses. Everybody does. And so, on an encouraging side, that means you can recognize your strengths.
Yeah.
You don't have to downplay them.
No, and it's normal to have strengths. And a lot of times we don't even know our strengths are strengths.
That is true.
Because what we think is, hey, everybody's good at this. Everybody can do this. I was talking to your sister this morning, and they wanted her to do a rap at her Christmas Easter thing on Sunday. And when we're filming this, Easter's coming up. And they said, you have this many measures and we need you to write it. She didn't want to write it. She was like, I didn't want to write it. But she wrote it in 2 minutes in the shower in her brain. And it came out really good. And it was almost her going, I'm actually pretty good at this. And I think we all have those moments where people compliment us on something and we're like, well, it's no big deal, but it is because not everybody can do it.
Right.
And a lot of times the things we think are pretty simple and come easily are things that other people are like, gosh, I wish I could do that. But we kind of put ourselves down because we think, well, everybody can do it, but they can't.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, that's a really good thing for you to walk away with as a listener. And we should put this in the show notes.
Yeah.
A couple questions for you. What do people compliment you on?
That's good.
What are they like, wow, that's good. And you may not think anything about it, but they're impressed. Also, what do you love? Because here's the truth. Sometimes we have strengths that have nothing to do with what we love.
Yeah.
You should also like what you do if you're going to really lean into that strength. What do you get lost in when you're doing it? Maybe if you're a math person, you start doing a complex problem and time just flies by. Or a musician, you start practicing and you just get in the zone. That can also be something that points to what you love.
Yeah.
If you want to find out more about what that looks like in a work environment, there's a great resource called the Working Genius Assessment. And it talks about what kind of things in work are you good at.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm an inventor, and so are you, and a wonderer, which means we love dealing with big ideas.
We do.
We love coming up with ideas. We are not very good at the small, tiny, pushing through barriers to get something finished on time and with excellence.
Yeah.
We have to be very intentional about that.
We do.
However, we do have the strengths, and we have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
So you can acknowledge your own strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we want to do is take your strengths and be okay with them. It's not that you have to be better than anyone else. You don't have to be that guy who's always trying to one up the other guys.
Yeah.
Be good at what you're good at. Try to get better. Make your good thing a great thing. But also understand it's not going to be everything for everybody. Pick your area. And then I would say what you want to do is acknowledge, okay, there are areas of weakness that I have.
That's the other side of the coin.
And be okay with that. I think we have to do that because we're all not good at everything. And that doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you a very self-aware man.
I think that's true. Your weaknesses do not invalidate you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they don't invalidate your strengths. You have things you're interested in, you have things you aren't. You have things you're naturally good at, you have things you aren't. And if you're going to enter true confidence, because we're defining true confidence not as this narcissistic, oh, I'm in love with myself.
Exactly.
Because a lot of those people are not self-aware.
Yeah.
We're defining true confidence as knowing who you are, good, bad, and ugly, and being comfortable enough with that to live in the everyday and to grow step by step. Because your weaknesses, you don't want them to hurt you.
Yeah.
However, you don't have to try and pretend like those are strengths.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people get stuck in that game of I'm really bad at writing reports at my job, so I have to use ChatGPT and try and act like I made it, to bring the best kind of thing up to the forefront. Yeah. So, people are trying to turn their weaknesses into strengths. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that can be a vain pursuit.
Yeah, and it can also hurt you and hurt those relationships. Like maybe you've had that boss who doesn't like to have people who are better than him or her in something.
That's a good point.
So they pretend to be great at everything. They pretend to know everything. None of us likes to work for people like that. Mm-hmm. We like to have a boss who says, hey, I think you're better at that than I am. Why don't you do that?
That requires that confidence.
You actually respect them because you're like, okay, they know what's going on and they're going to let me excel at what I'm very good at. And I think that makes a boss a good boss and it makes us respect them more and want to work for them because they're recognizing our abilities. But we've all worked for bosses who they want to, every idea has to be theirs. If they didn't come up with it, they're going to shoot it down. We don't work there long, or those bosses don't last long.
No, that's true. I think something that can feed into the unhealthy culture is also comparison.
Yeah.
In this, because we are a more connected generation than ever before. So you have exposure to the best people in the world on basically every subject.
Yeah.
And if you go online and you look at those people and think to yourself, I should be that person, you're setting yourself up for failure. Yeah. I think of like for fitness purposes, when we were first getting into fitness, when I was first getting into it, one of the people that was recommended to me was Athlean X. The guy's a physical therapist, but also a professional athlete trainer. Yeah. And so he had good stuff that's not going to cause you to hurt yourself. Not a meathead mentality where it's like, just protein, he had good stuff. So I started looking at it. That dude is like in his 40s. And he's got 5% body fat.
Yeah, he's sick.
For those who don't know, 5% body fat is like shredded abs all the time when you're not even flexing.
Yeah.
So, and he, also has like freaking like a bocce ball on his arm whenever he's flexing his bicep. It is ridiculous.
It is.
If I compared myself to him and said being fit is being that guy.
Yeah.
Well, of course I'm going to be like sad every time I look in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's not who I'm trying to be. But we get stuck in that.
We do.
Whether in the professional world or in the fatherhood world or in the husband world, or unfortunately sometimes we compare other people into our world to others. You have to become comfortable with the reality of who you are instead of trying to copy paste from the world's best in every single area. You can be inspired by those people.
Yeah.
But in order to be truly confident, you have to recognize who you are.
Well, and sometimes we're watching things that just aren't real.
Yeah.
You see pictures or video that have been, changed and morphed, or AI and things, or you're even watching something that's just almost complete pretend, but we think, oh, that's real. I should be like that. And it's just not. And what we're doing is we're hurting ourselves because then we just think, I can never get better. And I think for a lot of men, that just causes them to kind of quit and just kind of back out and say, I can't look like Jeff, so I'm not even going to work out. Well, it's like, just work out. Just be you. Don't try to get 5%, but maybe get under 30%.
Yeah.
That could be a good start.
Yeah. Get beneath 20.
Yeah.
Get to a level where your doctor isn't going to look at you angrily every time you go to the checkup. That would be progress.
Doctors get tired of saying, lose weight.
Eat well and exercise.
I know.
Eat well and exercise.
It's true.
Yeah. So you can be confident.
Yeah.
Without being the full package.
Exactly.
And I think that's really the overarching idea is you don't have to be perfect to be confident.
You don't.
Because to be honest, there is pressure on every human, guys and girls, to be the full package.
It is.
Like if you just look at your society and say, what are the expectations on me? You're probably going to be shocked when you actually consciously bring it up to the surface. Because it's like, oh, we want you to be super buff,
Yeah.
move a lot of weight, and know Brazilian jiu-jitsu because you need to be able to like fight if it comes down to it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, the girls want you to have the emotional intelligence of a Hallmark guy.
It's true.
You know, to
It's
be
true.
or like a rom-com guy,
Yeah,
to where
yeah.
like you're ready to cry in the rain at any moment.
At any
and
moment.
when they walk down the aisle, you're just weeping. You know, that's who you're supposed to be. Your parents, maybe they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer or a professional athlete or a business owner,
Yeah,
or maybe
yeah.
a combination of all of them.
Yeah.
Dave Ramsey and all the budget people want you to never take out a loan in your entire life,
Yeah.
only use cash and never pick up a credit card.
Yeah, yeah.
And those are just what came off the top of our head.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are just a few.
With that in mind, you're setting yourself up for failure if that's your expectation. If that's what's required for you to be confident, you will never be confident.
No.
So what we are saying, self-awareness is genuinely looking at who you are, setting aside some of those unrealistic expectations,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being able to not only evaluate yourself, but be able to be okay with that. And some of that requires prayer. Because it's like, God, how did you design me?
Exactly.
I'm not interested in what all the other people are saying about me. What do you say about me?
Well, it's like the guy who's trying to do everything. He has to get to that point where he realizes, I don't have the energy, I don't have the stamina, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. You know, we look at all these things and it's almost like we never let ourselves celebrate our growth. So we don't even try to grow because we think, well, I'll never be perfect. Well, no, but you can be better. But there's also a time in your life you need to rest. You need to recharge your batteries. You don't have to always have a project going. You don't always have to be doing something or trying to be a certain way. Like just recently for me, I was trying to pick up a few new things I wanted to do. And they're things I've wanted to do. And I thought, well, I'm going to add these in. Well, then I figured out, okay, my plate got really, really full. You know, I'm doing this. And I started looking at everything and I was like, I want to keep these. They seem fun, but I just had to cut them because I was like, I just don't have time. I have to prioritize. What do I really, really want? And I think that's what we have to do is say, what fits me in this season of my life right now? Not trying to do perfect, not trying to be the full package for everybody, but what's best for this season where I'm at right now.
Exactly.
And I think when we do that, it helps us to feel more confident about the choices we do make.
Yeah. I love what you just said. Trying to be the full package.
Yeah.
Outside of Jesus, nobody is the full package. No human being has it all and does it all.
Yeah.
And in fact, even Jesus himself, if society looked at him and said, you're not enough.
Yeah, they do.
They're like, you're not the Messiah, buddy. You're homeless. You're going from city to city. Yeah, you can heal people, but you're not going to be it. So if they said that about God, I don't think we should expect society to applaud us for being self-aware.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a journey of learning that you're a human being. I think a lot of times we expect ourselves to be superhuman or to be basically a computer. That the more stuff you can fit into that computer for it to run, the better.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. We all have limited stamina and energy. We have to recharge and rest. I mean, we have to begin to treat ourselves as humans and be okay with that. I mean, I'm going back to Uncle Iro. He was okay with himself. He was like, well, I'm not on the throne like I technically should be.
Yeah.
You know, I'm on the run with my nephew and my son passed away in a battle.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pour into him and I'm going to try and make this world better.
Yeah.
And that became like he was okay with that.
Yeah.
And so for you, we want you to realize like productivity is good.
Yeah.
But it's not the only purpose of your life. Your goal is not just to be strong in every area and be perfect.
Yeah.
Ultimately, if you do that, you're going to end up bringing yourself to a place where you either burn yourself up or you're going to give up. Those are the two settings.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of men do. They go. Then they crash and burn, and everyone's like, what happened to them?
Yeah.
They were going so great. It's like, well, they burned themselves out. And if we're not careful, we can have a tendency to do that because we set ourselves up thinking, I have to be perfect.
And today is the day. While you listen to this podcast, today is the day to let that go.
Yeah.
And that's going to be hard. because a lot of us have been holding on to that for decades. I'm not even 30 and I've been holding on to that for decades.
We all have.
And yeah, everybody has. So you have to almost kill that part.
Yeah,
you have to set that aside and consistently say no to it. And as time goes along through the process, you will learn to be more comfortable with the fact that you are a human being.
Yep.
And that that's okay. So the first step to self-confidence is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Being aware of our strengths and our weaknesses, the fact that we're humans. Let's talk about how to actually get there.
Okay.
It comes from three things: learning,
Yeah.
reflecting, and asking for trustworthy opinions. Because we have to just become self-aware. A lot of us aren't.
Yeah.
A lot of us have so much going on in our head that we don't even know how to filter through that, you know?
Well, and a lot of times we're so busy living life, doing things. You know, we all have schedules that can be very busy, that we don't take the time to reflect. We don't take the time to say, okay, let me learn about myself. And some guys we're like, that stuff is goofy. That stuff's important. You know, an athlete looks at film of himself. A professional athlete will watch film and they'll look at their footwork. They'll look at their hands. They'll look at everything because they want to be better. And I think we could learn from that as men and say, what can I learn about myself? What are some ways that I can learn about me and who I am?
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And so we started with one that doesn't require you to do the legwork.
Yeah.
It's learning and using objective tools that can help you build these categories for your strengths.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of resources out there, and no one tool is perfect.
No.
But there's a lot of them that can be useful and help you to become aware, like that aware of yourself, like we're talking about. One would be the Strength Finders assessment.
Yeah.
The Strength Finders assessment is exactly what it sounds like. It's about finding your strengths.
Yep.
And their whole mentality is built off of this idea that where you're really going to make a difference is the areas that you're good at, not by just trying to fix all your weaknesses. You can keep your weaknesses from hurting you, but your strengths are really where you're going to shine. So we can put a link to that so you can go click on it. I think it is a paid assessment, but it's not that expensive. And for being able to be aware of yourself, I think it's probably worth the price. And then also the one we mentioned a little bit earlier, the Working Genius assessment.
That's a really good one.
Because that one is very simple. Strength Finders assessment takes a minute.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of categories.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to read the description of what they call strengths. It's worth it. But Working Genius, there's 6. There's 6 geniuses. 2 of them are going to be your strengths. 2 of them you're going to feel neutral about. And 2 of them are things you hate.
Yeah.
Which is important because you also got to learn which things you don't like.
Yeah. And it's those things that drain you. We've all had those things that you can do them. You just don't want to do them. It just drains you. And a lot of times we find ourselves procrastinating in those areas.
That's true.
So if you're not sure, it's like, okay, where do I naturally procrastinate? That's probably not your working genius.
Yeah, exactly. And it's helpful because it applies to work, and a lot of us think in those terms.
Yeah.
So those are really good tools for when it comes to using things to help you learn about yourself.
Yeah.
The second area that's required is reflection.
Yeah, reflection is when you take the time to really think about, okay, what are some of the things about me? What am I really into? What's my purpose? What am I living for? Stuff like that. How is my work helping me get there? You know, there's things like the Work Plus Love questionnaire. Really great questionnaire. And what it does is it helps you understand, okay, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going with my life? And you think, well, David, I don't have time for that. I mean, those are big questions, but they're important because it helps you say, am I lining up the big picture stuff of my life with the everyday stuff in my life?
Exactly.
And if you're not, you're going to feel frustrated and you're going to get aggravated. And a lot of times that's when you run away to things that aren't good for you. We get into addictions and other things that aren't good for us because a lot of times we're running away from the lack of reflection in our life.
Yeah, I think it's also good to reflect on unrealistic expectations. We have to be real about how much of the stuff that we're carrying that we expect of ourselves has nothing to do with reality. It has to do with maybe something a parent said, or maybe it has to do with something a school taught for a while, or something that your friends pressured you into. We got to start filtering between, like, we got to filter out all the things that are from outside sources that are not helpful.
Yeah.
And then look at, okay, what's real? Not only what do I like, but also like what people have spoken into my life in a way that really does resonate with me. And I think that that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes reflection. That takes thinking through. And that takes time.
And I think understanding what stage of life am I in? You know, where am I at? What do I really have time for? What's important to me at this stage?
That's true.
And I think sometimes we think, well, I should be good at everything, but I also have small children who need my time. You know, I'm married. My wife needs my time. I'm working 80 hours a week. You know, okay, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot during that season.
It's true.
So understand that and be okay with it.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true because seasonality, I think, is something that we've forgotten in our culture.
We have.
And we need to remember that because even let's say if you have something you love and are good at, your ability to do it will vary with seasons.
It does. Sometimes
you'll have a ton of extra free time that you can just pour into that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to have maybe 5 minutes on a good day.
Yep.
That's important. That's where reflection comes in.
It does.
It comes from taking the practical and really actually integrating it into your life because you're an individual.
It does.
I think finally, we need the opinions of other people that are trustworthy.
Yeah, finding those people who kind of know you, are genuine with you, not people who are trying to turn you into them.
True.
You know, those peer pressure relationships aren't good, but people who are very genuine. And you can just ask them, hey, what do you think I'm good at? You know, you can ask, you know, if you're married, your spouse, or if you've got a close friend, or maybe you have a good relationship with your boss or a coworker, and say, hey, what areas do you notice I'm good at? And it's not to feed your ego or anything like that. You just want to see what somebody else think. Because you may think I'm good at this or that, and they may bring up something. They're like, hey, every time you come into a meeting, you bring this to it. And you're like, well, I just thought everybody did that. And then you realize, oh, that's a strength of mine. And that's a good thing to hear from an outside voice.
No, I agree. You can even ask the hard question of where do I not excel?
Exactly.
You know, what are the areas that you would classify as my weaknesses? Because sometimes we're also very distorted in that. You might think a strength of yours is a weakness because you have such a hyper awareness of it because it is a strength. Or the opposite. You may have an area where you think it's a strength, but it's really not. Even though that's hard to hear sometimes, let's go ahead and get that over with so we can start being truly self-aware. If we're going to get to a point where we can truly be the main characters of our own life, to quote Marcus Buckingham, where you can live a first-rate version of your life and not a second-rate version of somebody else's, a life where you don't feel the need to escape from it. It starts with self-awareness. It starts with self-awareness.
Yeah, and what you want to do is work to build that self-awareness up. Because as you do that, then you begin to take more agency with your life and you really become the hero of your own story. Again, you're not going to do everything perfect. You're not going to be perfect, but you're making the choice to do it. And self-awareness is the key to do that well.
Exactly. So we're going to be continuing this series on how to be the main character of your own life, on how to be confident, really, is what this is about. Because every guy wants to be able to live a life confidently. We still got 3 more weeks of this. So try and apply these lessons this week, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving Man Podcast. If you want to check out more resources from David and Reese, you can go to thrivingman.com. We'll see you in the next episode.